Hey, welcome here to a brand new episode. I'm your host, Dr. Faith Elizabeth Nanyonga. If you're listening in today, I'd like to take this minute to thank you for each and every time that you tune in to listen to me as I teach about career development and personal development. Your support is invaluable to me, and I don't take it for granted. If it's your first time here, welcome to the Frame Solution podcast. And if you'd like to be a fan, there are 3 ways you can support this show and spread the love. Every single share, subscribe count matters, so do not think your efforts go unnoticed. The first way you could support this show is by leaving a review in Apple Podcasts. Reviews not only make the world a better place for me, as the podcast gets to many ears, but also rank our podcast higher in the podcast charts. You can subscribe to this podcast so that you do not miss out any episode as they are released. And also, you could choose to be a guest on the podcast by sending in an email. The email address is theframesolutions@gmail.com. Thank you once again. I used to be very confident until I became a PhD student. Honestly, I've spoken about my PhD journey, but it was one of the most daunting periods of my life. I found that what I was working on was not working, but also the failures that I experienced, the lack of support from my supervisors and the like, really got me on that downfall. I started doubting my expertise, my knowledge, my wisdom. I started feeling like I didn't have anything to bring to the table. And I'm looking back 4 years later. I'm thinking, Faith, how did you get through that point? How did you overcome that hurdle of lack of confidence? My confidence tanked. Every day that I looked at my PhD, I wasn't sure that I would complete it in time. I wasn't sure that I would have the PhD at the end of the day. And also, I didn't believe that the people I was working with saw the value I brought to the table. So, in today's episode, I'm going to talk about how to regain your confidence, how to become confident, and how to establish more confidence in yourself and in your capabilities. Without further ado, let's get right into this episode. So confidence, I believe, is an inside job, but your surrounding can also impact how confident you feel. Story. Growing up, I was a very confident child. I remember even campaigning to be a head prefect when I was in just primary school. I think, in primary 4 or class 4, depending on how you call it. I campaigned to be a head girl when I was just 10 years old. So that meant I was confident that I had what it took to become a head girl. Even when I look back and I'm thinking, what was I thinking? I was only 10 years old. I remember that I stood in front of the school and I gave a speech. I gave them my pointers. I told them what I would do if I was elected head girl. I gave them my manifesto, and people lined up at my back because voting was not the secret ballot type. You had to line up behind your candidate that you were supporting. So my line was a little bit long, not so long, but my opponent had gained a very long line. I recall leaving that day and going home and crying to my parents, telling them I didn't win to be a head girl, but I had the confidence and the belief that I would be able to lead those kids from primary 1 to primary 7 and be their head girl when I was only 10 years old, Looking back at that experience, it gives me the belief that I was a confident person. And also, I went on to my high school. I went to St. Lawrence Horizon Campus in Uganda. It was one of the beautiful schools. It was a girls' school. And when I got there, what happened is I became a class monitress where I would liaise with the teachers on how the classes were going. I would help make the class be in order, plan for classes and the like. That was in my Form 2. Then when I went into Form 3, I didn't want to be a prefect, but I was elected to become a religious prefect. So I became a leader at a very young age. And being a leader meant that I had to be confident. I was confident that I would be able to lead my fellow students. And I did that. So looking back, I'm thinking I was confident because of how my parents raised me and the environment I grew in. My parents were very supportive of my ambitions. They supported me each and every step of the way. Also, my career journey, finishing my undergraduate, going to the UK to do a master's, it also required some kind of confidence for me to apply for those scholarships. Although my scholarship applications, as I've spoken on this podcast, I eventually had more failures than anything else. I started applying for scholarships when I was just freshly into the corporate world. It was 2011. So I thought, okay, I've gotten a job. Now it's time for me to look for a scholarship to go and study abroad. All those try and errors led me to who I am, because I tried many times and I didn't get the scholarship until the last time when I almost gave up, that I ended up getting the master's scholarship to go and study in the UK. Fast forward, UK is done. I applied for a PhD in 2014. I get to Australia in 2015 to do my PhD. And when I got here, of course, I still felt confident. But as time went on, my confidence tanked. I lost a belief in myself. Every day seemed to be a hard day because my project was not working. I didn't have enough support from my supervisors. Things were failing. All that led me not to believe in myself. So that's the synopsis of my confidence journey. The transformational period of my confidence journey began when things hit the fan, when things were failing. 2015 to 2019, my confidence each year kept dropping. By the time I finished my PhD, I had regained my confidence, but I had to do the inside job. And in today's episode, I'm going to share with you those practical steps I took to rebuild my confidence and to teach you how to be confident if you're struggling in that area. Without further ado, let's get right into this episode. That was a very long intro, Faith, but I had to give you a context of my confidence journey. So the first thing that you need to do, as I've said over and over again, is to self-reflect. Start by reflecting on your strengths, your weaknesses, and the areas in which you want to improve your confidence. Understanding yourself better is going to help you define those areas of your life that you tick, and will be the first step to you establishing your confidence. For instance, as I've told you, my confidence tanked when I became a PhD student. So I had to go back and self-reflect and look at my career journey and figure out areas of my life when I was confident. I asked myself questions like, what made me confident in the first place before now? I had confidence in myself because I believed in my capabilities. I had confidence in myself because I had a supportive system. I had confidence in myself because my goals were bigger than myself. I've done an episode about value system and how to take imperfect action. All those were pointers that helped me start regaining my confidence. I looked at areas that I was lacking because I was lacking the support I needed for my PhD. I lacked support from my supervisors. So I got myself a mentor. My mentor, oh my goodness, he's called Dr. Alberto. Alberto held my hand through my PhD. Every day that I talk to him and every day that I wake up, I pray for that guy because he held my hand. He supported me. He advocated for me. He even went ahead to tell my supervisors that if you're not giving Faith a PhD, I'm going to leave your research group. And eventually ended up changing research groups, but he supported me on that journey. Had I not had him in my corner, I wouldn't have made it at the end. Also, I prayed to God. I'm a Christian. I believe that everything works with prayer. And when I prayed to God, God brought a big change in my supervision team. My immediate supervisor was relieved of his duties and I was given another supervisor, which supervisor came in at the time when I needed a new supervisor. She came in and helped me finish my PhD in that time that I had, and also helped me learn a lot about myself. She believed in my capabilities. She knew I had everything that I needed to finish that PhD. And in the long run, I completed my PhD in time. Number 3 was to establish my strength. I knew I was a very good student. So I knew I had to believe that I'm a good student in the first place. I had to believe that what I'm doing is going to work. I had to believe that the cause that I was working on was bigger than me. Choosing to do a PhD was not the end of my journey. It was just part of my journey. And the cause that I'm working on is to generate drugs, therapeutics, treatment, vaccines, diagnostics for different diseases to help eradicate them. And I'm talking about viruses. I also decided to set myself realistic goals. As my PhD was failing, I set myself realistic goals. The goals would be like, I'll get myself a mentor. I will work hard toward this PhD. I'll advocate for change of experiments that we are doing. I will write the data that I have and report it the way it is, even if it's negative data. All that helped me see that even if the experiments were failing, it wasn't me with a problem. It was the PhD that had the problem. When I started achieving these small goals, my confidence started to be boosted. I started feeling good. I started looking forward to going to do this PhD. I started thinking of, okay, this can still be done. This can still result into something good for myself. Also, I decided to journal. When I was journaling, I used to do more of self-talk. I would have positive self-talk. I would remind myself of the hurdles that I've gone through, the things that I'd overcome to get where I am. I have told you that when I was applying for my master's scholarship, I failed many times. Reasons: I didn't know how to do the applications. I didn't seek any advice. I decided to do it my own. And from 2011 to 2013, I'd applied to over 10 universities in different continents. I applied to London, Nagasaki University collaboration. It was with London School and Japan. I applied to Sweden. I applied to Denmark. I applied to Australia. I applied to Canada. And all those scholarships, I didn't get them because I wasn't doing the applications right. So I remember sitting down in that period when I was applying for the master's scholarships, and I looked at what can I do. What I did was to get myself a mentor, and I knew that with the help of someone else, I could be able to get the scholarship. And when I did that, I ended up having the scholarship. So I started practicing positive talk and singling out those areas and those times in my journey where I had achieved what I had looked for in the first place. So I would say, even if this PhD is failing, I have been able to get a master's scholarship to study in the UK. Even if this PhD is failing, I have been able to win scholarship grants to travel and present my work to different scientific conferences. Even if this PhD is failing, I have been able to ace my exams in my master's and get a first class. So all that was positive self-talk that helped me navigate that hard period of my life when my confidence was low. Number 4 was to practice self-compassion. I've spoken about this and I talk about it in depth on my YouTube channel. Self-compassion is the beginning of self-love. When you love someone, you talk to them in a good way, right? I have 2 kids now. But if I'm disciplining them, I won't scream at them. I'll tell them in a kind and compassionate way. For instance, my son of late likes to climb everything, but I'm telling him, please do not climb, because when you climb, you're going to fall. So that's the practice I embodied. I embodied talking kindly to myself and being kind on this journey of self-discovery, of boosting my confidence, because I knew that my confidence was not tanking because I didn't believe in myself, but it's because the environment I was in was not supporting me. So every time that something would fail or an experiment would fail or my supervisor would make a mean comment, I'd look at it and I'm like, Faith, it's not about you, it's about them. It's a PhD, you're supposed to experience failure, because if you don't fail, you never learn. And failure is not final. It's just a step on the journey that you're going on. It teaches you resilience. So I used to talk to myself by calling my name, Faith. This scenario is teaching you how to be resilient. Faith, this scenario is teaching you how to be confident. This scenario is teaching you how to believe in yourself. Those were the words that I spoke over myself. Number 5 was physical health. If you followed me on my social media, you'll know that I started my fitness journey right at the start of my PhD. When I started my PhD in 2015, I was happy, I was excited. I used to post on my Facebook, my Instagram, let everyone know what kind of work I'm doing, hype myself just to motivate people and also get validation from others. I should say that. But as time went on, the PhD started failing and I didn't have anything else to talk about, because social media is always about sharing your interests, sharing things that you're loving, sharing things that are going to move you ahead, and also making that community of like-minded people. So as my PhD started failing, I didn't have much to talk about when it came to my PhD research. In fact, every day I didn't look forward to going to that lab. Sometimes I would meet my supervisor in the corridor and I would shrink. But I decided to join the gym at the beginning of 2016. That was almost a year into my PhD. And good enough, the University of Queensland had a gym that was fully equipped. So I would go to my PhD when experiments are failed at the end of the day, grab my bag, go to the gym and work out. This working out changed my perspective. If I'm to tell you how much exercise, weightlifting, running, and taking care of my health helped me navigate my areas of not being confident, physical health and physical activity really had a big play when it came to my confidence. Because as I started working out with all the stress that had accumulated in my PhD, I started to lose body fat. I got in the best shape of my life. And by the time I went to Uganda to see my family in 2016, I had lost weight. I was looking very well. I had a snatched waist. I was confident. And exercise had given me that confidence boost that I needed. I kept on working out until I finished my PhD. And up to now, exercise is one of the things I preach. In fact, it's one of the components I talk about on my Faith Lazy's Corner YouTube. By the way, if you haven't checked it out, a link will be in the description for you to watch some of the videos that I've done on my YouTube channel. I was doing a PhD. That means I was learning something new. But this learning was not really yielding to something. So my confidence actually tanked when I started being a PhD student, as I've said. But every day of the PhD, I decided to learn something. I would go on to read more journal papers. I would go on to educate myself, gain the knowledge that I needed to make informative conversation with others, and also argue out my points when my supervisors decided to say, Faith, that is not working. Why are you talking it? I would have the backup of the literature. As much as things were failing, I decided to keep learning by doing the literature review, by discovering ways to navigate the different experiments that were failing. And in the long run, I had the PhD at the end of the day. And right now, my life is set on a right path that I always wanted because my confidence got boosted. So what I would say is find ways to learn something new. When you learn something new, you might find a solution to that problem that you're experiencing. To boost your confidence, you also need to face your fears. Fears are those things that you are afraid to do, that you don't feel comfortable doing. Every time I faced my fears, it was proof to my brain and to myself that it was possible for me to complete that PhD. I decided to step out of my comfort zone, as I've explained. I got myself a mentor. I prayed for a change of supervisor, and eventually it happened. I believed that this was just a temporary season in my life, and after I was done with the PhD, my life would be set on a good ground. And that's exactly what happened. By the time I completed the PhD, my life had gone back to how it was. In fact, when I submitted my thesis, I thought that I was going to feel like I'm on top of the world, but I just felt like any other accomplishment because I think I was looking forward to the end more than anything else. So after getting the PhD, I sat down and reevaluated my journey. I decided to choose a career path that I felt was going to utilize my strength and not focus more on the things that I lacked. Because I know if I had gone on to do a traditional postdoc, what would happen is I didn't have many journal publications to prove my worth. Because in academics, they say, publish or perish. I didn't have many publications from my PhD because the experiments were failing. And the ones that worked, my supervisor was like, let me hold on to this research. We might get better results and we might publish the paper in a bigger journal. But up to now, they've not done anything with my data, which is okay. But I decided to choose a career that did not really rely on me showing that I am a scientist by journals, but I'm a scientist because of what I bring to the table. I'm a scientist because of the knowledge that I've accumulated on this journey of self-discovery, this journey of a PhD, this journey of navigating failure. So regaining my confidence was a slow, gradual process, but I was able to gain the confidence to be who I am right now. In fact, right now, the reasons as to why I teach other people how to build careers they love is because at some point of my career, I doubted that the career I'd chosen was the right career for me. For you to build the career you want, the first thing you have to do is to be clear on your career goals. Establish your career goals and be sure what direction you really want to take. Do not listen to external validation. Do not seek external help when it comes to choosing things that matter in your life, because your career is an integral part of your life. You're going to be with it the rest of your life. So I would like to conclude this by telling you that celebrate small wins. That will help you also boost your confidence. Also decide to practice that craft that you want to nail, because as you do this, you're going to build that confidence in yourself. Self-confidence is something that you cannot learn from anyone. It's just an inside job. As I've shared with you my journey, please put these points into mind and establish your self-confidence in a gradual process. It's going to take you patience to make it, to change your mindset, to build the confidence you need, but persevere, be consistent, have that consistent action. If you need someone to cheer you on, if you need someone to support you, I am right here in your corner. You can book yourself a 30 minutes free call. The link is in the description of this episode. And if you haven't downloaded my blueprint to career clarity, please download it. And it will be sure to help you establish your career goals for starters. And if you've learned something from this podcast, please share it with someone else. Also, rate and review this podcast, because if you do that, this podcast gets to many other ears and it helps many other women out there and early career professionals who want to advance their lives and build careers they love. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. Catch you in the next episode. I hope you've learned something from this episode, and if you have, please rate and review wherever you listen to your podcast. Subscribe to this podcast. Share it with your family, friends, and those that you think are interested in career development. Also, follow me on the socials, which is Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Pinterest. The username is The Frame Solutions. I can't wait to speak to you in the next episode. Stay blessed. Bye-bye.